Africa has immense economic potential due to its rich resources, young population, and regional integration. It's a major producer of minerals, oil, gas, and agricultural products. This potential will be highlighted as South Africa takes over the G20 presidency.
Africa is our home, and we are going to seek to make this G20 an Africa-focused G20.
Cyril Ramaphosa, however, faces protests and potential impeachment over the Farmgate scandal at home. Africa's median age is 19, driving economic growth. The African Union and African Continental Free Trade Area create a single market, boosting intra-Africa trade and investment. Prime Minister Narendra Modi was in Nigeria recently ahead of the G20 meeting in Rio to boost South-South cooperation. Africa has 40% of the world's gold and up to 90% of its chromium and platinum. The largest reserves of cobalt, diamonds, platinum and uranium are in Africa. It holds 65% of the world's arable land and 10% of the planet's internal renewable fresh water source. Despite the African Union and unity talks, Africa faces political instability. In Uganda, protesters are demanding government accountability, while President Museveni warns against protests, accusing some of foreign interference. This reflects the political landscape in 17 out of 48 African countries. Political uncertainty is compounded by hasty clean energy decisions like the closing of South Africa's Eskom thermal plant without assessing economic and livelihood impacts.
Considering the time lapse between the shutdown and what is happening currently, but Eskom is doing everything in its power to ensure that this doesn't turn into a ghost town.
North Africa, especially Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Egypt and Libya, has climates ideal for olive cultivation. Africa also boasts a growing tech industry, renewable energy and mobile tech. Urbanization is driving growth in construction, services and manufacturing. A growing middle class is driving demand for quality clothing and fashion items. Fashion and culture also brings unity to a vast continent that has much diversity but plenty in similarity.
I feel like we need to start celebrating one another and not allow certain barriers to get in between us. I feel like we let minor things like where are your parents from, where you're born, what language you speak, and all these things sort of like get in the way of us uniting together.
The next 12 months should position Africa as a key player in the global economy, with the potential to significantly improve living standards and drive sustainable development. The Economic Brief, DD India. Well, let's turn to Dr. Charan Singh once again. Dr. Charan Singh, do you see, a big opportunity for Africa to bring in investments while South Africa is the president of G20?
Absolutely, absolutely. You remember 2 years back when we were the president, we held the presidency of G20, the advantages it has. We were able to showcase our culture to the rest of the world, and most of the world leaders came here, and we had all type of activities within our country. We also involved the think tanks. We also had discussed of the new international economic order. Remember the report by Larry Summers and N.K. Singh? We were able to, in a great way, able to showcase to the world our inclusive growth and the Prime Minister's concept of life. So I think we took great advantage of it. On the same lines, after us it went to Brazil, another emerging country, and then South Africa, another emerging country. South Africa is a potential gold mine for the rest of the world and for India too. And I think the South Africans, as your report was just showing, they are not going to let this opportunity go away easily. They have much to offer to the world, rightly so. But I must also say it's the foresightedness of the Prime Minister that we were able to bring in the African Union as part of the G20. Now, while South Africa holds the presidency, the fact that the window was provided by India endears India to Africa.
Absolutely. So let me bring in a question here, Dr. Charan Singh, about India. What role do you see Indian investments playing in Africa? India is already big in telecom. There could be sectors like, mining, precious metals, banking, pharmaceuticals. Also, there's the demographic dividend. India is also young. The African continent is young. How best can all this be utilized?
Very correct. India and Africa as a continent and will enjoy greater synergy in days to come. The Prime Minister's visit to Nigeria is also a very strategic visit, and I think a very important visit. Is set a really good threshold level of relationship building up here. As far as the opportunities are concerned, while India's digital stamp across the world is being recognized, of course, its stamp in Africa obviously will also spread. But I'll share something with you
Right.
because you raised this issue of a demographic dividend that India is enjoying, even Africa will enjoy. It's a very young country. Two-thirds of its population is below 40 years. Just imagine how strong this country is. But also remember, in these 40 odd countries in Africa,
Yeah,
there are some challenges.
absolutely.
And this is where I think India has a great potential role to play. One of the challenges is you remember our Jan Dhan Yojana, which
Yes.
we did under Jam Trinity on a
Right,
mission mode,
right.
which the Prime Minister announced from the ramparts of Red Fort.
Yes.
Similar financial inclusion is required in Africa.
Okay.
Their growth, inclusive growth, the potential of Jandan is
Right.
massive and they have to learn from us. Secondly,
Yes.
given their school education and their university education, which is fragmented and broken, and school dropouts are very many,
Okay. So,
India's growth, India's contribution to education in Africa can play a very prominent role.
right.
Also, the digital stamp on education that we have, we can provide online education that can
Sure.
also make a great headway into Africa.
I'm
So I think
afraid we've run short of time, Dr. Charan Singh, but I think you've given us a clear idea about many areas of cooperation between India and the African continent, which is only likely to increase over the time. Thanks very much for being with us for the moment.